word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're gonna be talking about X-Men #4 by Jerry Duggan and Javier Pina. And in this video, we're gonna talk about how Jean Grey just soloed one of the most powerful supernatural entities in the Marvel Comics universe. More importantly, why that supernatural entity is even still around, considering that he was very recently dead, and what the hell is Feilong trying to do to himself? We're gonna talk about all that and more right now, but first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I post multiple videos throughout the week, plus live stream every Saturday, so that way you don't miss anything. Also, if you enjoy the video, I humbly ask that you Hulk smash that like button, because it really helps the channel out. That said, let's talk about X-Men #4. Okay, so by the time that we pick this comic up, what are the things that you're probably going to be asking yourself, considering that this comic takes place on the night before Halloween? One of the things that's going to become very apparent to you is that it's the perfect time for the character Nightmare to emerge. That said, Nightmare as a character is not supposed to be around. Nightmare, up until recently, was very much dead. He had died in the pages of Loki #4 from back in 2019 because he had lost a bet with the morally ambiguous Loki as of late. This bet was for his immortality. Having lost his bet, he did actually legitimately die. He literally lost his life, and he even met the one above all. Nightmare is back, and apparently he is back with a vengeance, and he's decided that he's going to turn his attention towards the X-Men because, as he so eloquently puts it, the X-Men have had experiences that lend themselves so well to his desires, and he wants nothing more than to feast on the X-Men. Now, for those who are not familiar with how Nightmare works, is that he likes to take control of people as they sleep and, for all intents and purposes, torture them. Think of him more as like the Freddy Krueger of the Marvel Comics universe, because for all intents and purposes, he can't really mess with you unless you're asleep. There are some instances where he can use his ability to conjure illusions and images that would possibly scare you or terrify you. Yes, he can do that while you're awake, and he can even possess people so that he can kind of work through them and affect you more directly, but for all intents and purposes, unless you're asleep, you really have nothing to fear from the demon Nightmare. That said, it just so happens that when Nightmare likes to strike, it's when you're asleep, and just as sure as 1-2, Freddy's coming for you, Nightmare is coming for the X-Men. And in this particular moment, what he's doing is he's feasting on their fears and their doubts, specifically Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Wolverine. Now, in the instance of Cyclops, he's feasting on Cyclops' fears and doubts in regards to his ability to lead mutant kind to a better place. He's always had this lingering doubt in the back of his head that what if he makes the wrong call? What if the people following him end up getting hurt because of a call that he made? These are things, very real things he's had to deal with. He's also had to deal with the fact that he is, well, as Marvel Comics fathers go, not the best father in the world. He's often had to give up his son, Cable, and in cases that are sometimes really shitty and sometimes not even of his control, but it makes it no less an issue that he has to deal with. Even remembering the fall from the plane that both he and his brother Havoc had undergone that permanently affected his mutant powers, having fallen and smashed his head against a rock and it permanently affecting the way his mutant powers work, making it to where he couldn't control them. Even imagining a future where the X-Men, mutant kind as a whole, has been eradicated by Sentinels and there was nothing that he could do about it. Feeling like he's disappointed every woman that he's ever loved, whether it was Jean, whether it was Madeline Pryor, whether it was Emma Frost. He has always let people down, and even in times where he feels like he hasn't let people down, he still feels that way. Even imagining that he's let down Xavier and Magneto, and in this case I feel like the guilt he feels towards Xavier and Magneto, this one I feel is a little bit of projecting, or not so much projecting, but maybe a lean into the future. Who knows? He's imagining a world where Krakoa has been burned to the ground and Cyclops was ultimately wrong. I mentioned earlier that he's also going to play with Wolverine's fears, and by Wolverine, I'm referring to Laura Kinney. You see, as we've been talking about lately, there is going to be some kind of resolution to this whole Synch Wolverine romance, or the lack thereof at this moment. Once again, I will remind you that Synch and Wolverine were a part of the 3-person outfit that also included Darwin that infiltrated the vault to spy on the post-humans and figure out exactly what it was they were up to. This was a mission that lasted centuries, and it was also one that dramatically changed all 3 characters for the foreseeable future. Synch, probably more so than anyone else, considering that he was the only one to escape the vault and have his memories backed up by Xavier before he was killed by the post-humans who caught him having escaped the vault. Wolverine had sacrificed herself so that Synch could get that far, but because she was behind the post-humans' force field that would block Xavier's ability to back her up, she has no memory of the romance that her and Synch shared with one another, the deep love that they felt for one another that kind of blossomed under dangerous circumstances. However, Synch still remembers this, and not to sound like the guy who said that wrestling is still real to him, well, that romance is still real to Synch. The problem is that Laura feels conflicted about this. She wants to know what happened, and Synch has promised to not tell her anything unless she wants to know, and as Nightmare points out, all she has to do is ask a telepath to show her what Synch knows, but she's afraid because she doesn't want to love him. And I don't think it's so much that Nightmare actually believes that she doesn't want to love him. I think this is just him messing with her. However, I do feel like Laura is afraid to know, because initially when Laura and Synch originally entered the vault, she was very standoffish against him, but over time, them spending so much time in the vault as time passed differently there, hundreds of years could pass in the span of maybe a couple of days, maybe a month or so, she's afraid of what that could have been, and she's probably afraid that Synch has feelings for her that she can't reciprocate because they didn't go through those same experiences. All that said, I do feel like Gerry Duggan is doing a very good job of addressing the seeds and plot threads that Jonathan Hickman laid out for him in those later issues of Jonathan Hickman's run on X-Men. We've seen Synch and Laura go back and forth. It seems like in some instances, Laura does maybe possibly feel something for Synch, but she's afraid of what it is and she doesn't know what it is, and she probably feels weirded out by it. We've even seen Gabby mention something about this in the pages of New Mutants. That said, while Nightmare is preying upon Wolverine, it's here that he's met by Jean Grey. Jean Grey, being an Omega level telepath, it's no small surprise that she realized somebody was rooting around in their heads. Now, this was not before she was taunted first. He's preying on her fears and her doubts and her sins of the past. We even see a moment where there's a tongue-in-cheek reference to Gerry Duggan, who has often defended Jean Grey's choice of costume in this House of X era. The rivalry between Jean Grey and Emma Frost all turning to this instance where Emma insults Jean's costume without Jean initially realizing that she's being insulted at first, until Emma actually delivers the insult. This is actually very tongue-in-cheek. If you actually follow Gerry Duggan on Twitter, he's been very vocal about the fact that he is perfectly fine with keeping Jean Grey's costume exactly the way it is, because on Krakoa, all thighs should be free. That said, he's also preying on the fact that Jean Grey used to be the Phoenix and that she still harbors guilt over the lives that she destroyed during her time being possessed by the Dark Phoenix. This guilt is not something that Jean Grey wears as a crutch. She doesn't allow it to shackle her. And just like we got with Sunfire in X-Men #2, we finally learn exactly what it was that Jean Grey said at the Hellfire Gala, the case that she made for why she should be an X-Man. The idea that she does accept the fact that she was a murderer, that she committed mass genocide, that she had snuffed out so many lives that she cannot replace, and lives that she still feels the weight of till this very day. The fact that she is going to do everything she can to make up for that, even though she knows she never will, that she will never be able to replace what was broken, and she'll never be able to save more lives than what she took. But more importantly, the fact that she knows this, that she understands that she'll never never be able to make up for her time as Dark Phoenix. That no matter how long, if she had 1,000,000 years, she would never be able to make up for that crime. But she's going to spend the rest of her days trying regardless, even though she knows that it's no way possible she could make up for it, that there's no way she would ever succeed, that this is literally a quest that is doomed to fail, and she's ready to fail at every turn because she knows that regardless of the outcome, she's still going to do more good, even if she only tries. And that is why she was elected to become an X-Man. Once again, she is an Omega level telepath, and of course, Nightmare is a class 3 demon. That doesn't mean that Nightmare is some kind of a slouch. That just means he's less powerful than the likes of characters like Dormammu. However, Nightmare is still a major threat. He's a type of character that even people like Doctor Strange has to take seriously, and mind you, this comic does make a direct reference on at least 2 separate occasions that Doctor Strange has been murdered. This is why Nightmare is enacting all of his machinations on the X-Men currently. Now that Nightmare feels like he has been spurned by Jean Grey because he has been ejected from the X-Men's dreams and has been kicked out of the treehouse, unceremoniously I might add, in ways that only DJ Jazzy Jeff would understand, Nightmare now feels like he's going to unleash the full force of his powers on the citizens of New York, something that would be an actual legitimate threat if Jean Grey weren't around. You see, a lot of people tend to think that Jean Grey is only powerful with the Phoenix, that the Phoenix was the only thing that made her great. But the thing a lot of people forget is that to be an Omega level telepath means that you are more powerful than one of the most powerful telepaths on Earth, and that is Charles Xavier. A lot of people forget exactly how powerful Jean is, and if she is an Omega level telepath, which means that her power, her upper limit, has yet to reach its absolute maximum, that means that Charles Xavier's has. And if she can outmuscle Charles Xavier, the guy who is literally seen as the most powerful telepath on Earth, then I mean, yeah, give her the respect that she deserves. An Omega level telepath is nothing to sneeze at. She can go toe to toe with anyone who is going to try and invade her mind mentally on any level. And this is the thing I find so incredibly insane about this, the fact that people don't give her her flowers. The fact that we've seen characters like Emma Frost, who is not an Omega level telepath, do things that defy logic. She has been able to completely, with the help of Cerebro, completely wipe out the idea of mutant kind from human minds. She was able to completely mask mutants from humanity right before House of X, and she's not an Omega level telepath. Now, granted, there were some caveats that went along with that. The fact that she was power boosted by Fabian Cortez, and there was also some other shenanigans pulled out by characters like Elixir and Mr. Sinister that helped her do this. But even with that, Jean could probably have done that without any help whatsoever. And just like I often like to say in regards to characters like Cyclops, I feel like you can immediately tell who actually read X-Men comics growing up versus who just watched the X-Men animated series from the 90s. You can always tell just based on the Cyclops haters, like what they hate about Cyclops. You're like, yeah, you clearly didn't read the comics. It's kind of the same for Jean Grey. A lot of people think that, oh, all she does is make orgasmic moans and pass out and scream Scott's name as if she just started bussing everywhere. No, that's actually not the case. Jean is so much more of an interesting character than what that animated series ever gave her credit for. A lot of people's opinions about certain characters are painted by what they witnessed in other media outside of comics, and I'm sorry, but if your only knowledge of Jean Grey, the only thing you have to go on with Jean Grey is what happened in those X-Men animated cartoons back in the day, then I feel sorry for you, because Jean is so much better than that. I'm not saying she's the most interesting character among the X-Men, but I am willing to give her her flowers because she does deserve them. I mean, think about it. Any woman, any person on the X-Men who can legitimately count Storm as her best friend and Storm actually recognize and acknowledge that ought to tell you something about her character. I feel like Nightmare actually legitimately fears Jean Grey because he knows Jean Grey is not afraid of him. She doesn't fear him, and she's more than willing to take him on solo Dolo, she doesn't have anyone else there with her. Sunfire, while yes, he is very much awake, he's not getting involved in this. This is literally a battle of wills. Not only that, Cyclops is still passed out. He doesn't come to until after Nightmare has already been ejected from their dreams. And Jean has already saved the citizens of New York by herself. Now, I will say Cyclops did wake up just in time to get them cheeks, because it just so happens that fighting Nightmare got Jean just a little bit worked up, and well, Cyclops woke up just in time. That said, the other thing I found interesting in this comic is that, Ben Urich, the guy who has long been known as an ally of Daredevil, a reporter for the Daily Bugle, and also a guy who's technically part owner of the Daily Bugle, he has been following this plot thread, this lead towards the deaths and resurrections of mutants, something that Dr. Stasis has given him some insight on, giving him files basically explaining that Cyclops and some of the other X-Men have actually died before. There's actual physical evidence proving that Cyclops was killed on the Orchis base, as well as the other X-Men, and they have been seen walking around very recently. Everything that happened in House of X #4 has been documented. The suicide mission to stop Orchis base, Dr. Stasis has all the evidence and all the files, and Ben Urich has access to him, and now he's looking in on something that this right here, I want to say, is actually a direct callback to the event X-Men Extermination by Ed Brisson. The death of Cable at the hands of what at the time we thought was a mysterious assailant, but turned out to be a younger version of Cable. Cable's body was actually buried at the end of that storyline, and it just seems to make sense. And right now, he's looking into the fact that Cable's body is missing. And of course, as we know, Cable has been seen running around lately. As a matter of fact, both the young Cable and the adult Cable have been running around in very different points. Cable is now operating in the present day, while the young Cable is operating in his appropriate timeline. And this is just giving Ben Urich more to chew on. More importantly, I also find this very interesting that Dr. Stasis, he seems to be up to something. He seems to want to inspect the treehouse, and it seems like he's going to have to do this when the X-Men are not around. It seems like there's something being set up here. I'm not really sure exactly what the plan is because a lot of it is redacted, but we know for a fact that whatever it is Dr. Stasis is going to pull next, it's going to require him to infiltrate the X-Men's new base. Also, speaking of X-Men villains, we know that the character Feilong has launched his mission to Mars, and on this mission, we know that he is going to be using a ruby quartz to focus cosmic rays into his space vessel, which is also doubling as an observatory. What exactly is he doing with this? Well, I don't really know, but I will say this, that whatever it is, initially I thought, well, it's a ruby quartz, and who else messes with ruby quartz other than Cyclops? Is he trying to make himself immune to Cyclops' blast, as we've seen in the past with the armor of the Hellfire Knights, only he's doing this to his own body? That was my initial thought at first when I was reading this, but kind of going back and looking at it, I kind of feel like it goes a little deeper. And maybe it's because I've been doing a lot of research for other comics that just so happen to involve characters like the UFOs, characters who try to copy the Fantastic Four's mission that allowed them to be bombarded by cosmic rays that gave them the powers that they have. Maybe Feilong is trying to bombard himself with cosmic rays to give himself superpowers by the time that he reaches Mars. Now, as it's stated, it takes about roughly 39 days to travel by spaceship from Earth to Mars, and he's going to do it in about half the time. So we're looking at around anywhere between 19 to 20 days that he's going to get there, and he's going to do this to himself regularly until, I guess, he gets cosmic powers? I don't know what's going on here, but man, it would really suck if this didn't work. Though it does actually explain why he told Henry Peter Urich that if this doesn't work, if he were to die on his mission, that Urich would get what he wanted. So it does kind of lend some credence to the fact that this taking on cosmic rays, being focused through a ruby quartz, is most likely, very likely actually, to kill him. But something tells me that he won't be so lucky. He'll probably wind up getting superpowers, but I don't know if it's going to be the way he wants them. That is everything that's of import in X-Men #4. This comic, I do feel like, is pushing the narrative a little bit. It may not be the overarching narrative that I think a lot of people are probably expecting, but we're definitely getting a lot of individual character arcs. I mean, we're getting arcs with Wolverine, we're getting arcs with Cyclops, we're getting arcs with Jean Grey. We're learning more about what's going on with Ben Urich, Feilong. We're learning more about what Dr. Stasis is up to. So I feel like, yeah, a lot of the individual character arcs are moving along at a very nice, brisk pace, and I'm very happy to see it. I was a little disappointed that the solicit sources did kind of imply that we were going to get a taste of the Headless Horseman, who, yes, I know it's the Headless Horseman, and he's technically not that important of a character, but I was kind of thinking, oh, well, maybe they are going to double down into this whole Headless Horseman thing, considering the fact that he is actually a character who exists in the Marvel Comics universe, not just in fairy tales, in folklore, but that wasn't a thing. But I do feel like maybe it was a clever way to hide the fact that Nightmare was in the comic. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We do know that Ben Urich was hanging out in Sleepy Hollow, so who knows? Maybe there's still a chance for this to happen. But either way, I enjoyed this comic. I thought it was a nice little touch for a Halloween-themed issue, and yeah, I'm here for it. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share this video all over the internet with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to Jerry Duggan's X-Men. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about X-Men #4. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.